The late afternoon light stretched across the narrow windows of the workshop, turning the floating dust into soft gold. Malik Hartman stood beside a long wooden table, running his fingertips along the edges of thick binders that had been opened more times than he could count. Each one carried decades of careful history. Each one smelled faintly of leather, paper, and memory. Across from him, his son Lucas sat on the floor, legs crossed, textbooks open but ignored. At 16, Lucas had a habit of pretending to focus while his mind wandered somewhere far more interesting. Right now, that somewhere was spread out in front of him, baseball cards in protective sleeves laid out, like a puzzle that only he understood. Lucas lifted one toward the window. "This one still amazes me. Your dad really found this in an estate sale?" Malik smiled, though the warmth in his chest carried a shadow. He didn't just find it. He spent 40 years learning how to recognize value before anyone else did. Lucas nodded slowly. He knew exactly what he was doing. Malik leaned against the table. His father had died 3 years earlier, suddenly leaving behind more than a collection. He had left behind patience, discipline, and the belief that legacy wasn't about money. Still, when the appraisal came in months ago, even Malik had been stunned. $132,000. But to Malik, the number had never mattered as much as the stories behind each card. Lucas grinned. "Still, it's nice that it's worth that much." Malik chuckled. "You're not wrong. The cards weren't just stored casually. The most valuable ones were kept in a fireproof safe inside the workshop. The rest remained in a climate-controlled storage facility across the city. His father had always said redundancy was survival." Malik checked his watch. "Your grandmother is coming tonight." Lucas's smile faded slightly. "Of course she is." Before he could say more, Malik spoke again, his tone steady but firm. "Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe the channel and let me know in the comments where are you watching from. It helps more than you know." Lucas blinked, confused, then laughed. "You sound like those podcasts you listen to." "Maybe I do," Malik said, smiling. "But I mean it. People like knowing where others are from." The moment passed, but the tension returned quickly. Darlene Whitaker had strong opinions about everything, especially about other people's children. She was 65, sharp-tongued, and convinced that success only existed in the form of loud achievement. Her daughter's kids, Lucas's cousins, were athletes, performers, and constant sources of praise. Lucas, quiet and thoughtful, was never enough in her eyes. That evening, Darlene arrived early, as always, letting herself in without knocking. Malik heard her voice immediately. "Jenna, you're using too much salt again. It's terrible for your health." Jenna forced a smile. She had inherited her mother's dark hair, but none of her cruelty. "Nice to see you, too, Mom." Dinner was predictable. Darlene spoke about Lucas's cousins, their victories, their scholarships, their ambition. Every sentence felt like a comparison. "Lucas," she said suddenly, "have you thought about applying somewhere more competitive? Your cousin Adam just got into a top business program." "I have a list," Lucas said calmly. "A list is nice," Darlene replied, "but ambition is better." Malik set down his fork. "He has a perfect grade point average and volunteers 12 hours a week." "That sounds ambitious to me." Darlene waved her hand. "We'll see." The rest of the night dragged. Later, Malik found Lucas in the workshop, sitting beside the safe. "She doesn't mean it," Lucas said quietly. "Yes, she does," Malik answered. Lucas hesitated. "Sometimes I think about selling them, paying for college, proving I don't need anyone." Malik rested a hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to prove anything. Your grandfather trusted you. That's enough." That night, Malik couldn't sleep. Something about Darlene's behavior lingered in his mind like a warning he couldn't yet name. 3 weeks later, he returned home from a supply run and noticed something strange immediately. The house was too quiet. Jenna and Lucas had left that morning for campus visits, but on the kitchen counter sat a metal lockbox. That didn't belong to them. Malik picked it up, turning it slowly. His phone buzzed. A message from Jenna. Mom stopped by yesterday. Needed to grab something for a fundraiser. A cold feeling spread through his chest. Malik walked through the house, checking every room with careful precision. Nothing seemed disturbed. He saved the workshop for last. The safe stood open, empty. Every binder, every sleeve, every card, gone. Malik stood there in silence, the world narrowing into a single point. He pulled out his phone and began taking photographs. Then he called the storage facility. Yes, the manager said casually. Your mother-in-law came yesterday. Said you sent her. Malik closed his eyes. By the time Jenna and Lucas returned the next day, Malik already knew where the collection had gone and who had taken it. But the truth he uncovered after that would change everything they thought they knew about family. And the quiet way Lucas reacted when he finally heard the news, that was what terrified Malik the most. When Jenna and Lucas walked through the front door the next afternoon, their voices filled the house with excitement. They were talking over each other, laughing about a university tour, the labs, the dorms, the energy of campus life. For a moment, Malik wished he could freeze time, let them stay in that light before the storm reached them. Lucas stopped first. He noticed his father's face. What happened? Jenna followed his gaze. The smile faded from her lips. Malik, what's wrong? We need to sit down, he said. They gathered in the living room. Malik explained everything calmly, almost clinically. The open safe, the storage unit, the auction house, the completed sale. Jenna stared at him like she didn't understand the language he was speaking. That's not possible, she whispered. She wouldn't do that. Lucas said nothing. Malik continued, I confirmed it. The collection was sold in Chicago through a private auction. The transfer is complete. Jenna reached for her phone immediately. I'm calling her. Don't expect an answer, Malik said. She called anyway. Once, twice, 3 times. Voicemail. Lucas finally spoke, his voice quiet and hollow. She sold Grandpa's cards? Yes, but why? That was the question Malik had spent the entire weekend trying to answer. Jenna shook her head. There has to be a misunderstanding. Malik looked at her. There isn't. She turned toward him, tears forming. She must have needed the money for something serious, like what? I don't know. Jenna snapped. Then her voice broke. She's my mother. Lucas stood up suddenly. I need to go to my room. Lucas, Jenna called. I'm fine. But he wasn't. Malik could see it in the way his son's shoulders stiffened, the way he walked upstairs, without looking back. That night, Malik and Jenna argued in whispers. We should go to the police, Malik said. She's family. She stole from our son. Maybe she thought. Thought what, that she could take his inheritance and we'd thank her for it? Jenna pressed her hands to her face. Just give me time to talk to her. Malik didn't sleep. The next morning, Darlene finally answered. Jenna put her on speaker. I was going to call, Darlene said calmly. You sold Lucas's cards, Jenna said. Yes, Jenna's breath caught. Why? The money went to help your sister's children, Darlene said. Their student loans. They were drowning. I saved them. Malik felt something cold settle in his chest. You stole from Lucas to help your favorites. Oh, don't be dramatic, Darlene replied. Those cards were just sitting there. Lucas is young. He has time. The others needed help now. Jenna whispered, you should have asked. You would have said no. Because they weren't yours, Malik said. They were cardboard, Darlene snapped. I turned them into something useful. We want the money back. Silence. It's gone, she said. Then she hung up. For the next few days, the house felt like a fracture that wouldn't heal. Lucas barely spoke. He stopped talking about college. He stopped looking at the workshop. Malik watched his son retreat into silence, and that scared him more than anger ever could. So he did what he always did when something didn't make sense. He investigated. Malik worked as a property claims analyst. His job was finding fraud in complicated insurance cases. He knew how people hid truth behind polished stories. And Darlene's story made no sense. She had no financial problems. Her house was paid off. Her late husband's pension covered her expenses. Yet she always complained about money while wearing designer clothes and traveling. Malik started with public records, bank filings, property taxes, credit reports he could legally access. Through professional channels, nothing alarming, but his instincts told him to dig deeper. He created a social media profile and connected with people in Darlene's social circle. Slowly, patterns appeared. Photos from Miami, Las Vegas, Seattle. Expensive restaurants, luxury hotels, none of it matched the life she claimed. Then Malik found something strange. A review Darlene left for a restaurant in Arizona, perfect for romantic evenings. Romantic? She had been widowed for nearly a decade. He searched further, more hotel reviews, more travel. Then he found it. A dating profile under a slightly altered name. The photos were edited. Younger, softer. The biography described a successful entrepreneur looking for generous companionship. Malik leaned back in his chair. He had seen this before. Romance fraud. He created another profile, a wealthy widower. 3 days later, she messaged him. The conversations began harmless, then slowly shifted. She talked about dreams, travel, financial, hardship, opportunities she couldn't afford, never asking directly, but guiding. Malik documented everything. Within a week, he confirmed the truth. The baseball cards hadn't just been used for student loans. They had funded her scams, her trips, her lies. By the end of that week, Malik knew something else. Darlene had no intention of ever repaying Lucas, and when he finally decided how he would confront her, he realized this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about destroying the illusion she had built for years, because the next time the whole family gathered, Malik was going to expose everything, and the reaction that followed would tear the family apart in ways no one was prepared for. The invitation arrived 3 days later. Darlene was hosting a family dinner. The message sounded cheerful, almost forced. She wrote about moving forward, about forgiveness, about not letting misunderstandings divide the family. Malik stared at the text for a long time. "She wants control," he said quietly. Jenna sat across from him at the kitchen table. "She wants to fix this." "No," Malik replied. "She wants to bury it." Lucas didn't say anything. He just kept staring at his phone, jaw tight. "Do we have to go?" he asked. Malik looked at him. "Only if you want to." Lucas hesitated. "I want to see her face when she lies again." That was enough. The evening of the dinner, the drive across town felt heavier than usual. The sky was gray, the kind that pressed down on everything. Malik noticed Lucas watching the passing streets silently, his hands clenched in his lap. When they arrived, the house was already full. Jenna's sister, her husband, their children, Jenna's brother and his daughter, a few extended relatives, everyone trying too hard to act normal. The smell of expensive catering filled the air. Malik exchanged polite greetings, but his focus stayed on Darlene. She stood near the dining table, smiling, hosting, performing, as if nothing had happened. Dinner began with forced laughter, small talk, compliments about food, stories about work and school. Lucas barely touched his plate. Malik waited. He had learned long ago that timing mattered more than anger. Dessert was served. Plates clinked. Conversations softened. Then Darlene cleared her throat. "I think it's time we move past this unpleasant situation," she said, looking around the table. "Some people in this family seem to believe I did something wrong, but I want everyone here to understand why I made the decision I did." The room quieted. "I helped my grandchildren," she continued. "I relieved them from crushing debt. That is what family does. It sacrifices." Malik saw Jenna's shoulders tense. Darlene turned to Lucas. "And I hope you learned something from this. Those cards were an asset. You don't need them. What you needed was a lesson in generosity." Lucas's grip tightened on his fork. That was the moment Malik stood. "Actually," he said calmly, "let's talk about generosity." Darlene's smile flickered. "Malik, don't start." "Oh, I'm just getting started." He pulled out his phone. "You told everyone the cards were for student loans. That was the story. But the numbers didn't add up. So I looked deeper." He turned the screen toward the table. "This is your dating profile. The room exploded in whispers. Darlene's face went pale. "What is that?" "Your other life," Malik said. "The one where you pretend to be younger, wealthy, successful. The one where you target lonely men." "That's ridiculous," she snapped. Malik swiped through screenshots. Messages to a man in Arizona, another in New York, plans for luxury trips, requests disguised as emotional struggles. "You never ask directly, you guide them." Gasps filled the room. Jenna's sister covered her mouth. Her brother stared in disbelief. "You're lying," Darlene said, but her voice shook. "I have records," Malik continued. "Travel dates, expenses, conversations, correlations. This is not a mistake. This is a pattern." Lucas suddenly stood. Everyone turned. "I followed you last night," he said quietly. Darlene froze. "You told Mom you had a historical society meeting," Lucas continued. "But you were at the Grand Meridian Hotel. I saw you. You were with a man." Silence dropped over the room. "You were wearing the bracelet you told Mom you sold." Darlene's hands trembled. Malik stepped closer. "His name is Victor Reynolds. Recently widowed. Substantial retirement savings. You're planning a trip with him next month." Darlene's mouth opened, then closed. "This is invasion of privacy. You invaded my son's future," Malik said. The room shifted. People began whispering. Shock turned into anger. Jenna looked shattered. "Mom, is this true?" Darlene's eyes darted around the room, searching for support. There was none. Finally, her shoulders slumped. "It started small," she whispered. "They wanted to spend money on me. I let them. Then it became easier. I needed to keep up appearances." "And the cards?" Malik asked. "They were just sitting there," she said. "I thought I could use them. Help the others. Help myself." "No. One would really be hurt." Lucas's voice broke. "Grandpa spent his whole life building that. I didn't think you'd care this much." Lucas stepped back as if struck. "You didn't think I'd care?" Malik felt the room's attention tighten around them. "So here's what happens now," he said. Darlene looked up, fear finally breaking through. "You have two choices," Malik continued. "You repay every dollar, or I take this evidence to the police. Fraud and theft." Gasps again. "You wouldn't dare," she whispered. "Try me." The silence stretched. Jenna's sister stared at Darlene in horror. Her brother shook his head. Lucas watched without emotion. Finally, Darlene's voice cracked. "I'll pay it back, all of it," Malik said. "And you confess to every victim." Tears filled her eyes. "I'll be ruined." "You ruined yourself." The gathering dissolved quickly after that. No one knew what to say. Families left in silence, relationships fractured in real time. When Malik, Jenna, and Lucas walked to their car, the night air felt cold and sharp. Lucas spoke first. "She was never sorry, no," Malik said. "She was just afraid." Lucas looked at him. "What happens now?" Malik opened the car door. "Now," he said quietly, "we make sure she never hurts anyone again." And over the next weeks, the consequences that followed would reshape every part of their lives, including some that Malik never expected. The next 60 days passed slowly, like a storm that refused to break. Darlene did exactly what Malik had demanded. At first he thought she would try to stall or lie again, but something had shifted that night. The illusion she had spent years building was gone. People who once admired her now avoided her calls. Invitations stopped. Her social circle collapsed almost overnight. Jenna remained in limited contact, mostly because she needed updates. Malik didn't stop her, he knew. Cutting someone off completely was harder than it sounded, but every time Jenna returned from one of those short visits, she looked older, as if the weight of the truth had settled into her bones. "She's selling everything," Jenna told him one evening. "Clothes, jewelry, even furniture." Malik nodded. "Good." Lucas didn't respond. He had become quieter since the confrontation, but not fragile. There was a steadiness in him now that Malik had never seen before. He had stopped avoiding the workshop. Instead, he spent hours there, not looking at the empty safe, but reading, researching, planning. One night, Malik found him with a notebook full of lists. "What's that?" he asked. Lucas looked up. "If the money comes back, I want to start something new." Not the same collection. Something mine. Malik felt a quiet pride. Your grandfather would like that. Lucas gave a small smile. I think so. As the deadline approached, the ripple effects of Darlene's actions spread through the family. Jenna's sister had been forced to refinance her house to return the money used for her son's loans. Their relationship with Darlene shattered. They barely spoke anymore. Jenna's brother made his daughter get a part-time job to repay the portion she had received. For the first time, she began to understand the cost of easy money, and Darlene herself changed. She moved out of her large house into a small apartment. She took a job at a grocery store. People whispered. Some pretended not to recognize her. Malik didn't feel satisfaction, only a sense of balance being restored. On the 59th day, a certified envelope arrived. Malik and Lucas opened it together at the kitchen table. Inside was a cashier's check for $132,000 plus interest. Lucas stared at it for a long time. She actually did it. Yes. They went to the bank together and deposited it into an account under Lucas's name. As they left the building, Lucas asked, "What should I do with it?" "That's your decision." Lucas thought for a moment. "Most of it goes to college, but some of it I want to rebuild something. Not because of the money, because of what it means." Malik nodded. "That's the right reason." That evening, Jenna approached Malik while he was organizing tools in the workshop. "The men she scammed," she said quietly. "What happened?" "She contacted them, returned what she could. Some of them reported her anyway." Jenna swallowed. "She could go to prison. That's not my choice. That's theirs." Jenna leaned against the workbench. "I keep thinking I should have seen it. I defended her at first. I chose her over Lucas." Malik stepped closer. "You chose your son when it mattered." She nodded, tears falling. "I don't know if I'll ever forgive her." "You don't have to." The legal consequences came months later. Darlene pleaded guilty to fraud. She received probation, community service, and mandatory counseling. Her name appeared in the local news. The women's organization she had been part of removed her. She disappeared from the life she once controlled. Time moved forward. Lucas returned to talking about college again. He laughed more. He started meeting friends, planning his future. One afternoon, nearly a year after everything, Malik and Lucas stood in a small auction house in Denver. They had spent months tracking meaningful pieces for a new collection. Not the most valuable, the most personal. They bid on a vintage card connected to one of Lucas's favorite players. When the final call came and the hammer fell, Lucas grinned wider than Malik had seen in a long time. "This one means something," Lucas said. "It does." As they drove home, Malik realized something unexpected. The loss had not destroyed them. It had strengthened them. That night, Lucas placed the new card inside the safe. "This one starts my collection," he said. Malik watched his son carefully close the door. And in that quiet moment he understood that revenge had never been the goal. Justice had. But the final chapter of this story would come in a way Malik never anticipated. When someone from the family returned with a gesture none of them had expected. Nearly a year and a half after the theft, life had begun to feel normal again. The workshop no longer felt like a place of loss. It had slowly transformed into something new. The empty shelves were filling again, one careful decision at a time. Lucas had built his own systems, spreadsheets, research notes, market trends. Every card he chose carried a story that meant something to him, not just value. Malik often stood in the doorway and watched, remembering the boy who had once sat there in silence. That silence was gone now. In its place was quiet strength. One Saturday afternoon, Malik was in the garage organizing tools when a car pulled into the driveway. He glanced up and frowned. It was Jenna's niece, Kira. He hadn't seen her since the night everything had come out. She looked different, tired, older, like life had pressed down on her in ways no one had expected. "Hi, Uncle Malik," she said hesitantly. "Hi, Kira. Is everything okay? Is Lucas home?" Malik called for his son. Lucas walked out slowly, cautious. They had barely spoken since that dinner. Kira took a deep breath. I wanted to apologize. Lucas said nothing. Not just with words, she continued. I didn't know where the money came from. But that doesn't change the fact that I benefited from it. I should have asked questions. You didn't know, Lucas said. I should have known something was wrong. When someone gives you that much money, you don't just accept it. She held out an envelope. I've been working, saving. It's not much yet, but I want to return everything. Eventually. This is the first part. Lucas looked at the envelope, then at her. You don't have to do this. I do, she said. Not because anyone is forcing me. Because it's the right thing. After a moment, Lucas accepted it. Thank you. Kira smiled through tears and left. Malik watched the car disappear, then turned to his son. That took courage. Lucas nodded. She's trying to be better. Later that evening, they sat together in the workshop. Lucas opened the envelope and studied the check. I'm going to use this for the collection, he said. Maybe find something from the year she was born. A reminder that people can change. Malik smiled. That's a good way to look at it. Life moved forward. Jenna eventually resumed limited contact with her mother. Lunch once a month. Short phone call. Darlene never came to the house again. She respected the boundaries as if she understood she had lost that right forever. The legal consequences continued shaping her life. Probation, counseling, community service, a reputation that would never fully recover. But for Malik, the anger had faded. One night he found Lucas in the workshop surrounded by cards and open catalogs. When this first happened, Malik said, I wanted revenge more than anything. Lucas looked up. You got it? No, Malik said. I exposed the truth. Everything else she did to herself. Lucas thought for a moment. Do you think she's sorry? I think she's sorry she got caught. Whether she's sorry for what she did, that's something only she can answer. Lucas nodded slowly. Either way, Malik continued, it doesn't matter anymore. We moved forward. Lucas closed the catalog and leaned back. Thanks for standing up for me. That's what family is, Malik said. Not blind loyalty. Not sacrifice that hurts the innocent. Real family protects each other. They sat in silence for a while, the comfortable kind that comes from trust. Outside, winter had settled in. The air was cold and sharp, but inside the workshop, the warmth of rebuilding surrounded them. Over the next months, Lucas's collection grew. Each card marked a moment of resilience, a reminder that loss could become strength. One evening, as they locked the safe, Lucas said quietly, Grandpa would be proud. Malik placed a hand on his shoulder. He already is. The betrayal had broken something, but it had also revealed something stronger. Integrity, courage, the willingness to rebuild instead of becoming bitter. Darlene had tried to teach a lesson about sacrifice. Instead, she had taught them about boundaries, justice, and the true meaning of respect. Years later, when Lucas looked at his collection, he wouldn't remember the theft as much as the recovery. Not the loss, but the rebuilding. Not the betrayal, but the strength that followed. Because in the end, the most valuable legacy wasn't the cards. It was the character forged in the moment everything fell apart. And if you've been listening this far, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments what time it is, where you're watching from. It helps more than you know.